So when I was writing my book about the Cold War, it was a book about George Kennan and Paul Nitze. I was researching everybody who knew something about either of those two men. Kennan was the American diplomat who wrote the long telegram and then was ambassador to the Soviet Union. And it turned out that when Svetlana Stalin, Stalin's daughter, defected to the United States in 1967, George Kennan was there, helped her along, and then she stayed at his farm. So I said, let's try to track her down. So I looked her up and I sent her a letter. I didn't think I'd hear anything back, and then a week later, I get this amazing letter from Lana Peters, Svetlana Stalin, and it looks like a ransom note. It's kind of wild. There are dots, there's annotations, every other word is underlined. It's kind of crazy, but it's also really, really smart about Kennan, about her, about everything. And I just liked talking to her, and she liked talking to me, so we sent letter after letter, a couple of a month for years. She grows up in the Kremlin, in Moscow, and then in 1967 she defects to the United States, and she comes down off the airplane and she gives this press conference in New York, and you watch the old clips and it's incredible, this mysterious woman who should be very hard to approach. How does she even speak English?
For those horrible things, killing people, injustice, I feel that responsible for this was and is the party, the regime and the ideology as a whole.
It made a huge difference, I think, in her public impression. And then there's, afterwards, a lot of condescension, negativity. There were a couple people who really didn't like her, in part because she did have such a temper and she was venomous towards certain people. But what also drew me into the story is the sense that actually, she's not quite like that. She's actually quite different from the Svetlana as portrayed in the public. She's a lot smarter, she's a lot warmer, she's a lot more interesting, she's a lot more creative. Her father's death was a very big moment in her life, both psychologically. Secondly, the political leadership in the Soviet Union changes, right? Her father is no longer running the country. In fact, the man who replaces him, Nikita Khrushchev, denounces him and describes all of his crimes. So suddenly she's gone from being, the daughter of the most powerful person in the country to the daughter of a man who much of the country is turning against. And it was also a sense that Svetlana hadn't, appreciated her father's power throughout her childhood, or the sense that he actually killed people and arrested people and sent people to the gulag and did these horrible, horrible things. She had a sense, but she didn't really know it. And so I finished the book, it came out, and I sent it to her. And very shortly I got a letter back. It said, "Dear Nicholas, I loved the book. I stayed up all night until my eyes blurred reading it. Except you got some details about my father's death wrong. He didn't sleep on the cot. He didn't wear pajamas." She had all of these minor details that she thought I had gotten wrong, that had been reported in all sorts of documents and books. But she was there, and she was very angry that I'd gotten these things wrong. And clearly, that event really mattered to her, and she really cared about how it was presented historically. Looking back at Svetlana, I feel like I got very lucky. I wrote the book at the right time. I got her at a stage in her life where she was relatively content. She wasn't angry at the world in the way that she was at other points. And so I think that allowed us the opportunity to talk about all these things. It gave me a chance to really learn about her, and I ended up getting a fairly nuanced portrait of a difficult, important, but charming woman.